So they're hanging out. So Egwene, Perrin, and Elias are hanging out. And they finally tell the truth to Elias about, how they came to end up in the forest where he resides. And he empathizes with their story, and he asks them, well, you could stay with me, right? He doesn't like trolls, and he doesn't like half men, and so he's like, stay with me, you'll be safe. In his mind, he even thinks, well, I'm kind of protecting them from the Aes Sedai, because they don't generally come into the forest. They don't like forests. Perrin and Egwene seem reluctant to accept Elias's help. A lot of it comes down to the fact that Perrin does not like the fact that Elias is telling him that he can speak to wolves. Perrin sort of thinks he's a madman, so he doesn't really want to stay. And so as he's asking them to stay, Perrin just keeps brushing it aside. No, blah, blah, this, that. And he does this a few times. And there's a moment where he's speaking and Egwene interrupts him. And she says, matter-of-factly, we are going to Camelin. Egwene spoke up firmly. And then to Tar Valon. And this irritates Perrin. And we get this line. Closing his mouth, Perrin met her angry look with one of his own. He knew that she followed his lead when she wanted to and not when she did not. But she could at least let him answer for himself. I'm sort of confused by this. I understand that he's peeved at her inconsistency and that she talked over him. I guess I have a hard time understanding how he's taking that and conflating it with leadership, because I think that's what's irritating him here. I wonder why he thinks that he's the only one that should get to answer this question. He's frustrated that he got spoken over, and once again, I understand that, they're on a team. They were pretty much giving the same answer to Elias. Egwene was just more matter-of-fact about it, but it seems like he's making this into a deeper symptom of her inability to follow his lead. And he's visibly flustered, right? This quote continues. What about you, Perrin? He said, and answered himself. Me? Well, let me think. Yes, I think I'll go on. He turned a mild smile on her. Well, Egwene, that makes both of us. I guess I'm going with you. At that, good to talk these things out before making a decision, isn't it? And remember, this is after he had already practically denied Elias's offer nearly twice. I don't remember before he answered him pulling Egwene aside and discussing it with her. He was about to give another answer, probably exactly the same answer that Egwene gave, and he didn't ask her. And then we get the end of it. She blushed, but the set of her jaw never lessened. So she's mad at him. Once again, I think rightly so. They agreed. He even says that. Well, Egwene, that makes both of us. He knows that they agreed. I don't understand why he thinks this is some deeper symptom of a leadership problem. All she did was answer the question in the exact same way that he was going to answer it. It could just be teamwork. It could be like riffing off of one another. It's not like she just played a solo for 15 minutes. What other choice did they have? Were they just gonna walk away and take a little break and talk over this? Maybe. And I think Perrin's exactly the same as Egwene. We're just in Perrin's mind, so we kind of get it from a biased perspective. He accepts his leadership ideas when he wants to, doesn't consider hers. And in this case, yeah, she was keeping them focused on their real goal, which is right. Earlier, when they were without a way to communicate before they had to tell the truth of their story, she looked at Perrin probably for some sort of guidance, and he got annoyed then. Perrin would have preferred Egwene to have not looked at him and figured something out. Taken the leadership role from him, right? Because there's only two of them. It sounds like he wanted her to assume leadership so he didn't have to. Doesn't that also imply that he got mad because he would rather not assume the leadership role when he doesn't want to? And also, wouldn't a real leader, like Perrin conjured in his mind earlier, have jumped at the chance or duly accepted this role when needed? But now, when she didn't look to him for guidance, he got annoyed again. Also, I don't remember when Elias caught them in a lie and Perrin reached for his axe. I don't remember him consulting with Egwene before instigating a fight. There was a point where he kind of, in his mind, where he's accusing Egwene, right, of sort of not consulting before they come to a conclusion, although he was about to anyway. In a way, this actually goes against some of his own ideas of being a leader. He sort of rejected this earlier. There was a quote earlier where he thought she was looking to him to lead them safely to Camelin, not share worries about which they could do nothing. So he didn't think to consult her on problems that might very well factor into their escape, nor did he consult Egwene when he just abandoned the fire. Because remember, when he abandoned the fire, he thought to himself, if he was the leader, it was time to start leading. That meant not consulting Egwene. That's all that meant. And once again, he just assumes that he's the one with the sole right to lead. I don't get it. Isn't it possible that maybe Perrin was the one that was scared to approach the cooking rabbit? Right? Isn't it possible that he's the one that's uncertain at suddenly taking charge? Wouldn't the fear and the diffidence of being a leader actually be more in line with Perrin's passive character traits, rather than Egwene's bullying, cavalier traits? Not to belabor the point, but after meeting Elias, it was Egwene that accepted Elias, not Perrin. So they decide to travel with Elias, so he's going to help them get to their destination. They're not just going to reside with him. And we do immediately see Egwene's bullying tendency come out when she begins to badger Elias for not writing Bela, which was pretty stupid, right? She's bullying just to bully. This is one instance where Perrin has just an obvious, blatant example of her being a bully, right? No doubt this is part of her ingrained wisdom training, which I think she's learning to counteract by being around Perrin, and Elias too. So Elias will introduce Egwene and Perrin to the tuantha'un. This is another very interesting scene. It's a collision of two disparate worldviews. On the one hand is rugged survivalism and individualism, and on the other is this commitment to nonviolence, to allies, to community. So as they're approaching the tuantha'un, mastiffs show up. And Elias tells them, oh, the mastiffs are just blowing smoke. They're not going to really attack. They'll only attack if we try to enter the trees with the caravan. But later, Aram, who we'll be introduced to in a bit, tells them, oh no, they won't attack. They follow this philosophy, the way of the leaf, which is a non-violent philosophy. So I didn't know. Right when they meet the Tinkers, we get a little bit of this anti-Force sentiment with Egwene. Egwene sniffed. Probably because the Terran fairy folk are as great thieves as the Tinkers. They no doubt end up stealing each other blind. Master Elias, if there really are Tinkers close by, shouldn't we go on? We don't want Bela stolen. Bela's the horse. But we do not have much else, but everybody knows Tinkers will steal anything. And this statement actually makes Elias a little irritated, a little angry. And Elias tells them, well, they still know more than most folk, less than some. Perrin, interestingly, is pretty accepting of these people, and he sounds very excited to finally see them. In fact, he sounds a lot like Egwene. After this, there's this funny line. A smiling tinker appeared to take Bela. Egwene gave the reins up reluctantly after a wry snort from Elias. Because I guess he just thinks that this is like, come on, like they're not gonna take our horses. But I also think he knows that they have this very traditional view, and this is very much a stereotype about other people that's coming out on Egwene's part. And they have this philosophy, the tuantha'un, the way of the leaf. It's very much a non-violent philosophy. There's a line that describes it. The leaf lives its appointed time. It does not struggle against the wind that carries it away. The leaf does no harm. It finally falls to nourish new leaves. Once they're brought into the caravan, and immediately Perrin has a hard time understanding or accepting their philosophy, and he begins asking a lot of questions. Elias gets the feeling that the tuantha'un are trying to convert Egwene and Perrin to their philosophy after they have inquired about what they perceive as these, strange, unusual ways. Even though Perrin was questioning it, Elias refers to the Tinker's talk as a bunch of foolishness. So two of the tuantha'un people respond with, will you teach them your way, to kill or die? Will you lead them in the fate you seek for yourself, dying alone? And this is important because I do believe that there are contrasting moral perspectives at work in this sequence, right? Elias is individual, survivalist, like the wolves that he lives with. And there's this interesting back and forth where Elias seems to blame young people for running off and joining the tuantha'un group. He thinks that the Tinkers enchant or charm everyone they're around. And later, I do think Perrin will see this happening to Egwene by Aram. And it does seem like, yeah, the Tinkers do seem to have a certain ability to enchant. Especially their songs, their music seems to harbor sorcery. And the tuantha'un just maintain their innocence and saying, well, free will. And it would have been interesting if there was some more emphasis on free will. I couldn't tell exactly how that intersected with each of their respective philosophies. And I am really interested to see if these philosophies, moralities come into play, right, in later books, especially with this emphasis on free will. Personally, I would have thought Elias would have espoused more of a free will doctrine, considering he's an individualist. And in the middle of this exchange, Perrin offers up his belief. He says, well, I don't look for violence. I don't think I've even wrestled anybody in years except for feast day games. But if somebody hit me, I'd hit him back. If I didn't, I would just be encouraging him to think he could hit me whenever he wanted to. So this is kind of Perrin's take on the world. Aram makes this barbed remark and insults Perrin. Some people can never overcome their baser instincts. And Perrin returns the insult. Right? He's defending himself. He just said he would. I'll bet you get to run away a lot. This is interesting, but it's random, kind of. Immediately after Aram makes this insulting remark to Perrin, Aram attacked Perrin, and Perrin insults him back, right? He just said that if you hit me, I would hit you back. But it's interesting, what Perrin didn't say is what he does. So Perrin immediately apologizes when Aram leaves to Illa and Rain, because he felt remorse after this. But when he was advocating his philosophy of self-defense, he never said that, yeah, I might feel shame and remorse for doing it. And it's very interesting that he doesn't mention that. And we can tell that Perrin has a deep reservoir of empathy. Think about what just happened with Aram. He practices the philosophy of Zalith. Aram attacked him with his words. He insulted him. But he was making a comment that it's a base instinct to attack at all. And yet here he is, Aram, insulting someone. So how much does Aram actually believe nonviolence? It doesn't seem like he fully believes his philosophy either. I think Perrin is undergoing a change in his moral thinking. And I think it started with the leadership ideas, but it's becoming much more apparent here. He's rejecting nonviolence specifically. He's adopting self-defense.